Sorry. What's up, everybody? Good morning. My bad. Sorry. I hadn't done that in a while. The microphone was down, but again, that's why you always wear your earpiece so you can hear. My bad, my bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. Okay. Start over. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Badgers Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction Roofing. You need an orthopedic, go to Brock. You need a roof, you call Parish. Unique Physique, uniquephysique.com, restored motions, restoredmotions.com. I got to add On Fire Athletes, the logo there, but everything is scrolling across the bottom. Okay, a couple things we'll get into here because I just wasted the first 2 minutes talking with no sound, so my apologies for that. Anyway, I love this time of year, a lot going on. Silly season for the Saints as they have requested an interview with Joe Brady. We actually at LouisianaSports.net have a head coach interview tracker up. So if you want to see what like the rumors are, obviously Darren Rizzi is going to get an interview. He confirmed that during his media availability on Monday. Joe Brady, the Saints have formally put in an interview for Joe Brady to interview the Bills OC. Kellen Moore, the Eagles OC. Aaron Glenn, the DC of the Lions, Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, and then Giants assistant head coach and offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. So those are the ones that they have put in an interview request for. The others that have been rumored, David Shaw was a conflicting report, as Jane Slater reported the Saints were going to interview David Shaw. Then Underhill came back and said they're not going to interview David Shaw. Okay. And then Matt Nagy. Cool. Well, Matt Nagy is one we don't have on our tracker, and that was Ross Jackson texting right now to say, hey, we don't have Matt Nagy on the tracker. He needs to go on the tracker. So we'll put Matt Nagy on the tracker. All right, y'all smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Thanks as always for being there. We appreciate y'all. I'm trying to find the Matt Nagy tweet. My apologies. So, and then a lot to get to as well, as LSU is going to host Donovan Green this week. So, Donovan Green, tight end from Texas A&M. And I think that's a significant one. Talked about it on AFR. It's actually the subject lead today on Locked on LSU, if you'd like to check that out. Because I think what we're seeing with LSU, even though they added Bauer Sharp from Oklahoma, and you've got obviously feeling very good about Trey'Dez Green. You're bringing in JD LaFleur. I kind of get the feeling like sorry, y'all. Gosh, dog it. Trying to do two things at once. So I kind of get the feeling like what LSU is doing here is looking to replace their depth in spots for 2026. So like Bauer Sharp has 1 year of eligibility remaining. So you go and you sign Bauer Sharp out of the portal. Well, he's got 1 year. He's going to be an impact guy for you this year. Well, you go look at Donovan Green, who has 2 years, possibly 3, if he gets a medical redshirt year after he tore his ACL before 2023. That kind of fills the gap for next year. So I think they did the same thing with Tamarcus Cooley, or in interviewing Tamarcus Cooley. So we'll see if it works, but it's an interesting strategy if that's what they do. So it's not to have to continue to go into the portal every year to get frontline starters that year. You can get guys in your program that hopefully can be multi-year contributors to your program. Okay, let's say some good mornings here. Hey, Kobe, good morning. How many home runs do you think Bear Jones hits this year? Well, Of course, the baseline is going to be 20. What did he hit last year? 28? Which is a massive number in this day and age of college baseball, but I think he hit 28 last year. Let me make sure I have that right. That's off the top of my head. I might be wrong. He hit 28. I nailed it. So he had 14 as a freshman, 28 last year. So, 30 would be a great number to strive for. But, with no Tommy White in the lineup, does he have that protection? Or do you see those power numbers drop a little bit? They did go after dudes in the portal. You've got Danny Dickinson, who might well lead off for you this year. We'll see. But they got to find protection for him in the lineup somewhere. But, yeah, he certainly could be that guy. Hey, Mark, good morning. Yep, saw North Dakota State won. Shout out. That was part of Otterlocks yesterday. Wendell Norman, good morning. Kelly Gross, good morning. Appreciate y'all for being here. Hunter, I don't know why the Saints are looking at Nagy or Kafka. Listen, Hunter, I have no problem with leaving no stone unturned, right? So Kafka, for example, hasn't been a head coach. And you could say, well, he's with the Giants and they stink. Okay. Is that his fault? Is that Brian Daboll? Was that missing on Daniel Jones in the draft and giving him a otherworldly contract after one good season? I'm not going to poo-poo that. Nagy, I think, is interesting because Nagy did have a great first year in Chicago. They went 12-4, made the stairstepped and then every year he stepped down after that. So, I don't mind having that conversation to say, okay, why did you have success at the beginning and why did it fail after? And dive into some of that nuance. Hey, Ronnie, good morning. M.L. Fody, good morning. Jeff McKithen, good morning. Matt sharing winning lottery numbers with the mic muted. Hey, Bailey, good morning. I don't blame you for how you feel about Aaron Glenn. I think the Saints should hire who they think is the best leader. I prefer an offensive coach. Yeah, man. So for those that have missed it, my point on Aaron Glenn is this is not in any way a reflection on Aaron Glenn at all. It's not his fault. It's actually unfair to Aaron Glenn, the point that I'm making. But the point I've made about Glenn is I don't want any connection to the former era, the Peyton era. I think you have to have a clean break, severed ties, completely new ideas. Now, Glenn has gone on to be the DC in Detroit. He's done very well there under Dan Campbell. They built great culture there, and there's something to be said for that. I would prefer a young offensive-minded coach, preferably from the Shanahan-McVay tree. Some of you said, well, then Kubiak. Honestly, had Kubiak not been the OC of the Saints this year and they had hired him as the head coach, I'd been like, okay, that's kind of the guy that I'm thinking. Although I don't know that you retain Kubiak now after this season. Let's see. Hey, Thomas, good morning. Cold in northern Alabama. Hope you guys are staying warm. Jingle Gate Day 8. We'll get it. Jacob, good morning. What's Jacoby Matthews waiting on? What do you think he will sign? Yeah, it's funny. I get asked about Jacoby Matthews every day. Again, the past couple of weeks, I've told you the latest information I have is that LSU has not made contact with Jacoby Matthews, and he would be a last resort at safety. So it sure seems like they're going another route. I'm not saying definitively it won't happen. That's just not their target or their priority. Is Todd Monken a dark horse? I don't know about that, Mark. I haven't heard Todd Monken's name mentioned. And, the other thing about Monken, 58 years old, do you get your first head coaching job at 58? Maybe. Feels like that would be a little bit of an outlier. But I'd love it if you could bring Lamar with him. David Bass, good morning. Hey, Robbie, good morning. Do you think Cam Jordan will retire? I don't. He said that he wants to play. What I would like to see happen is Cam go play somewhere else, quite honestly. As much as it would stink. See if you can find a way to get some cap relief. I'm looking at his contract right now. So 25 is cap hit. Yeah, jeez. Cam's cap number is 20 million. His dead cap number is 23.9. So if he plays for you, it costs you 20 million. If he doesn't play for you, it costs you 24 million. That's why the Saints are what they are. I mean, I'd love to see Cam have an opportunity to go somewhere and win because it's not going to happen here. But again, how do you get rid of that contract? How many wins does LSU basketball get in SEC play? You know, Kobe, about a week ago, I probably would have told you I'd shoot for 8, go 8-10 or 9-9. Now, realistically, 4 or 5, unfortunately. Ronnie, good morning. Abner Neal, good morning. Jason H., good morning. Bailey, I personally think Glenn would be terrible. I want to have minimal ties to Peyton. That's been my thought. Hey, Randall, good morning. Have a question. If Gail Benson fired Loomis today, or he quit, do you think any of the 31 NFL teams would be interested in his services as GM? I'd say no. Yeah, it's a good way to phrase it. Not knowing the situation of every NFL team, it's hard to say definitively, but I agree with you. I think it would be very hard for him to get a job because the rest of the league has looked at the Saints kind of cross-eyed with the way that they've managed their cap. And I want to be honest, I want to be very clear. It would be very, very, very hypocritical of me to fault the way the Saints managed the cap for the last decade when I was okay with what they did for a period. When Drew Brees was here and they were in win now, go all in mode, try to get one for Drew, I was fine with that. What I have not been okay with is over the last 4 years since Drew Brees retired, the continuing to double down and go win now when you are nowhere close and continuing to dig this hole deeper is what I've not been okay with. In 18, 19, 20, when you were all in to win one with Drew before he retired, I was fine with it. Go, push your chips to the middle of the table, take your swing. Look, the Broncos did this. The Broncos did it with Peyton Manning. They went to 2 Super Bowls, and they won one of them. Now, they went 10 years without making the playoffs after that, but now they got Sean Payton, and they're in the playoffs this year. And maybe they finally have their future quarterback in Bo Nix. It took them a decade. It took them a decade to get it right, but they went to 2 Super Bowls and won one of them. So if you, in hindsight, ask Denver fans, was it worth it? They go, of course it was. For the Saints, it's unfortunate because you didn't win. You didn't win a Super Bowl. You won a lot of games. You went to the playoffs, but you didn't get a Super Bowl. So, like, how different is the conversation about all this if the Nola no call goes the Saints' way, the Saints go to the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots? Probably a very different conversation. Brees probably retires after that season, or maybe plays one more and retires, and the Saints were able to reset. Hey, Lloyd, thought of a good segment you can do called Where Are They Now? Updates on former players, what they progress is at other schools. Always wonder what happened. Oh, you mean like LSU players that have transferred to other schools? It's, Lloyd, it's not a bad idea. I just honestly don't think there's much interest. I think you're kind of an outlier there, and I feel like I've got a pretty good idea, like finger on the pulse of the fan base. It's one of those, if you're not with us, you're against us type things. People like to cheer for the LSU players that go to the next level, which is why we do Tigers in the Pros. Allows you to keep up with how the guys are doing with the pros because you still cheer for them. But when they go to other schools, I don't feel like anybody cares. It's like, all right, out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. Leon, I'd be tickled if we can get David Shaw as a head coach. Leon, you might be the only one. David Shaw is interesting. I'll pick up that thought here in just a second. I got to go turn up your sound machine. Here you go, Thomas. I'll get back to the David Shaw point in 30 seconds.
Parish Construction and Roofing. At Parish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof, all the way down. Parish Construction and Roofing. Parish built. Parish built. Parish built. From your hometown. ParishBuilt.com.
Parish Construction and Roofing, ParishBuilt.com, ParishBuilt.com. We'd love to give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Of course, Brock, if you need orthopedics, go to Brock. They're the best. Locations all over the greater Baton Rouge area. PROrtho.com. Unique Physique, Restored Motions, Unique Physique, that's semaglutide, tirzepatide, New Year's resolution to lose some weight. Let Unique Physique help. the once-a-week injections for weight loss you've heard so much about. Unique Physique, uniquephysique.com. Okay, David Shaw. So David Shaw at one point when he was at Stanford was one of the most coveted names. He often got NFL interest, always stayed put. Things went south at Stanford. He left. He's been out now for 2 years, didn't coach at all, have any involvement in football. Last year, this season, he's in the front office with the Broncos, some front office position. Does Shaw want to coach again? Don't know. Does he want to be a head coach? Probably. Would you really take that leap with a guy without that high-level NFL experience that's been out of the game for a couple of years? I don't know that that's my choice. Besides, I don't think I want a veteran defensive coach. I want a young offensive coach. Brad, I heard Joel Klatt say Kelly ran from Notre Dame and Freeman took it further than Kelly ever did. When he talks about 2019 LSU, he says Brady was a mastermind, never mentions Ensminger. That's part of the challenge of being a national analyst, where your knowledge is wide but not deep. You have surface level knowledge of a lot of things, but you don't have deep knowledge of anything. And I don't envy those guys. It's a challenge to have to, I don't have to know anything about Washington State. He does. I don't have to know anything about Boston College. He does. Anyway, but the thing I'll point out as well with Freeman and Notre Dame is Freeman has not brought Notre Dame any further than Brian Kelly did. As a matter of fact, without a 12-team playoff, Marcus Freeman would not have had Notre Dame in the playoff this year. They would have been out on the outside. Brian Kelly got Notre Dame in the 4-team playoff twice and got into the BCS championship game. And in his final year at Notre Dame was 5th in the country. They were one spot out of the playoffs. So Marcus Freeman inherited a really good thing. Hey, Christian, good morning. Excited to see how Joe would pan out. It's one of the, I was thinking about it too, man. Brady's one of those guys that a year ago, 2 years ago, I would not have been okay with. Now that he has been the OC at 2 places, he failed in Carolina. He went as the quarterback's coach to Buffalo. And when they fired, it was Dorsey, wasn't it? They fired Ken Dorsey. They promoted Kellen Moore. I'm looking at Kellen Moore's name, sorry. They promoted Joe Brady, and he did well. And then this year has done even better. So I think you've seen growth and progress, and he's been with multiple organizations, and he kind of does qualify as one of the young guys that want. My hesitation is he's not a quarterback guy. So I want someone that maybe has a little more proficiency in tutoring and developing quarterbacks, which isn't Joe Brady. But I think you could do worse. Hey, Rusty, good morning. Brett, what do you think the weekend rotation will be? Well, I guess Chase Shores will be at the front of it, coming off of injury, and I'm really excited to see Chase Shores. I think that's the certainty. After that, I think you've got a ton of arms that are all going to vie for those spots. Zach Cowan was awesome last year for the team LSU played in the opening round of the regionals up in North Carolina. Wofford. He was their ace, and he's also a changeup pitcher who gives an offense a decidedly different look from 6'7" Chase Shores throwing 100, And then I'll be fascinated to see if William Schmidt can find his way into the rotation. I don't know if he can as a freshman, but I'll be fascinated to see it. Joe Brady's definitely the wrong direction. Rizzy or Shaw would be one too. I just could not disagree with that more. Lloyd, Dale, everybody's ready for baseball now. Just leaping over basketball after their loss this weekend. Linda, Kellen Moore will be getting an interview. Hey, Mick, whoever it is, they need to have the ability to judge talent. We can't afford any more busts. The other thing too, Mick, I'd say though, is like the Saints have hit in the draft. They just don't retain their players. Like I know we've been over this, but look at the defensive players you drafted that aren't with you anymore. Trey Hendrickson, Caden Ellis, David Onyemata, Alex Anzalone, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, you traded Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, Von Bell. I mean, these are all guys you drafted. But you've done such a poor job of managing your salary cap and your roster. You don't have any of those guys anymore. While your defense was 31st in the NFL this year. Now, Isaiah Foskey was a bust. Peyton Turner, Marcus Williams. I mean, Marcus Davenport. You've had notable misses, no doubt. Zach Bond. Like Zach Bond did he lead the NFL? And was he third in the NFL in tackles this year? I mean, that was a guy you couldn't figure out how to get him you couldn't figure out how to get Zach Bond on the field. And he goes and finishes, I think going into week 18, he was there. He finishes, did he not play the last week of the season? How about this? Caden Ellis and Zach Bond tied for 6th in the NFL in tackles this year with 151. Two guys that you drafted that are not playing for you anymore tied for 6th in the NFL in tackles this year. I mean, come on. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Chance, technically Dan Campbell is a Peyton disciple. Glenn and Johnson are kind of off his tree. Yeah, that's fair. And I think the nod to Campbell is probably more a guy like Rizzi because Campbell was the interim at Miami when they fired Flores. And I think they went 5-7. And they had the option to hire him. Miami could have retained Dan Campbell. They had him in the building, and they saw his culture and the way he got those guys to play, and they went a different direction. They went for the young offensive-minded coach, Mike McDaniel. And meanwhile, so look at Detroit. So maybe the point is you got Darren Rizzi right there. The culture guy who just needs his opportunity. Maybe. We'll see. Chihuahua 1, Mr. Fitz, Thomas. Tommy said you need to put a little weight back on. You look bony. Oh, Tammy. Let's say Tammy. Tammy, I'm not putting weight back on. I'm not. I want to lose maybe about 5 more pounds. And then I want to really I've started working out again, which I've only done body weight stuff like push-ups and air squats and stuff. But I started going back to hot works now. And I do plan to start doing a little more resistance to try to get a little, try to build a little muscle mass back. I mean, I haven't lost all my muscle mass, but I would like to I don't want to say bulk because I don't want to get big, but I just would like to add a little size and tone and definition. Hey, Jason, good morning. Do I mail the pralines to you or drop off? What do you prefer? Up to you, man. If you're in Baton Rouge, you could swing on by 929 Government Street. Lady Jag at the front desk will be glad to take them and then buzz me if I'm there. I could pop down and say hello. If not, no worries. But if you prefer to mail them, that's cool. Totally cool too. And thank you, by the way. Hey, Randall. Good morning. Hunter, let's see. Can't the Saints eat massive cap numbers, go 1-16 next year? They might. Derek Carr said yesterday he's not taking a pay cut. The Saints could designate him designate him as a post June 1 release and get cap relief for next year, but it spreads over 2 years then. So you'd have him on the books for a couple more years, but it would lower the cap number from $50 million this year. Do you think Rodgers will retire? I think it depends on who the head coach will be. Tiger Poppy, morning, Matt. Tom Brady is challenged in the booth. He called Saints-Bucks game terrible. Yeah, he's not good. It's a very difficult job to do. And I think sometimes the hard thing for ex-players to do, I talked about this with T-Bob for a while too. Like, I remember when T-Bob and I would do the pregame show, I'd tell him this all the time. Like, he never wants to sound like the ex-jock talking about, how things used to be or what they did when I'm like, but that's literally why you're here. You have the experience we don't have. Tell me about your experience. So Tom Brady in the booth, I would prefer much more to hear 3rd and 2, you got to look for the sweep right here because the defense is cheating and you want to set up, like, tell me that. Instead, what you get a lot of Tom Brady's, he's just recalling the play. So play-by-play, Kevin Burkhardt calls the play. Brady comes in. Yeah, look, it's a great throw as he steps up and he finds the right sideline. Really difficult pass, but great dime there. But, like, you just recalled the play. Like, talk to me more about strategy. Talk to me more about the why, or why is that such a difficult throw to make? That's hard for guys sometimes to get into that zone. Tough job. Hey, Quentin, good morning. Kobe, what did you eat for supper last night? One of my Factor meals. I subscribe to Factor. I think I had... I think it was a chicken dish. Michael Cook, James McKinney, Tim Gotro, Trivia Carter, Pat Huseman. Good morning, y'all. Randall, I've been ready for baseball since November. Charlie, Silo, morning, Matt. Do you think Joe Brady would get some 2019 LSU guys if he was to get the job? I mean, Terrace Marshall's an interesting one. I'm trying to think of what other 2019 LSU guys would be available. I mean, remember, you've got to have, well, like, you're obviously never getting Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry just signed an extension. Damian Lewis signed a free agent deal. I mean, who are the guys that are available? You know what I mean? Brent, good morning. Stephen Miller, good morning. Bailey, it'll be worth it when the Saints are good again. The bad informs the good. It's crazy. I mean, it's... Again, like, talent evaluation hasn't been the Saints' problem. They've drafted pretty well. Oh, they've had complete misses, like the 2020 draft. (2020) was Cesar Ruiz, Zach Bond, Adam Troutman, Tommy Stevens. You had 4 picks. Ruiz has been a mid starter. Zach Bond, you got nothing out of. Troutman was a bust, and Tommy Stevens didn't make the team. I mean, it's like you didn't have a draft. Hey, Rocky, warming up to the idea of Joe Brady. Oh, it's 7:45. Card needs to go to jail for robbing the Saints. No, it's not his fault. They're the ones that gave him the contract. He's not robbing anything. Like, they gave him the contract. It's on them. Bordaily said to interview Vrabel. I think we got that one at the Louisiana Sports.net as well. Please go check it out, LouisianaSports.net. Everything's free there. We got a tracker, a Saints interview, a head coach interview tracker up there as well. Oh, yeah, there you go. Clyde, that's true. Clyde's here from 2019. Yeah. Romo was great at the beginning. Hey, Deborah, good morning. Romo was great at the beginning because of his ability to predict the plays that were coming, which I remember listening to Matt Flynn talk about. He's like, that's not hard, which is true. I think a lot of high-level guys could do it, but he was just the one that would say it on air. And it's like, oh, my God, he called the play. But if you're a quarterback and you know the personnel and the coaches and the tendencies and you study film, and like, you should be able to do that. Okay, 7:46. I got to go. Thanks so much for being here. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, all of our great sponsors are linked in the description on YouTube and tagged on Facebook. So please support us by supporting our sponsors. And Locked on LSU is live. So podcast or YouTube, please go check out Locked on LSU. Appreciate all of you. We'll see you this afternoon for AFR.